Home automation could be a mind-boggling experience trying to figure out all the different manufacturers and players in the market. Seems like every week a new product pops up and what's going on. So you really need to reach out to an expert and try to figure out what's the best way to control your lighting, your shades, your HVAC equipment. So today we're going to meet with Gerard Lynch of System 7. They're actually an integrator of all different kind of components for systems. So let's go meet him and he'll give us some insight onto what to look for when you're doing an eco-friendly home. Hey Gerard, how you doing?
How are you?
All righty. Thanks for coming down. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day and join us over here to give us some insight.
My pleasure.
All right.
Look forward to it.
All right. Hey, maybe we could just grab a quiet little corner and go sit down and talk about some of these things and what to think about doing an eco-friendly home and those home automation type principles here.
Sounds good.
All right, let's go. So Jerry, what does the system integrators do? What does that mean?
Well, I sometimes describe it as all things electronic, but basically we help people plan systems designs for homes. And it can be quite comprehensive, but actually it's really pretty simple if you break it down into small, understandable pieces.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Hey, why don't we zip in here and have a seat, and we could go over a few things. I'd already met with an electrician to kind of talk about some of the things to think about, when you're building an eco-friendly home, but we just barely touch base on home automation.
Sure.
And, I have some questions. Maybe we could take it a step further and tell me what's involved and, layout, design, and, just some good background information on home automation and where it's going.
Sounds great. The first place I always start with home automation is the network. Wired and wireless network throughout the house. So a lot of people don't think about that when they're planning, but you can run wires to closets in discrete locations where you can put wireless extenders. And they run power over Ethernet, so you don't even need an electrical plug. But you want to have them laid out in the right areas so that you have good coverage throughout the house. But it all starts with the network. And then, once you've got that in place, if you can stomach the term subsystems, I break it down into subsystems. Lighting, climate, security, and then some more edge systems like pool and spa or irrigation. But you start thinking about all your systems one at a time and what might you want to do with them. Do you want to tie them together? Do you want one user interface? But it begins a whole process of checks and balances. So, the HVAC guy on your job may be proposing a certain thermostat. But if you used a different thermostat, it would tie together with an ecosystem of products much better than being just a standalone solution. A Nest thermostat, for instance, is a great product, but it has limited functionality when it plays with other systems.
Right.
So you have to sort of decide, are you going a multi-app approach or single app approach? And whichever way you decide to go is fine, but it's all part of the planning process. You definitely don't want to get to the point where the walls are framed, all the systems have been chosen, and then bring someone like us in and say, now tie it all together. Because it's a little late in the process. It's sort of like telling the chef, here's your groceries, now go make a great dinner. You kind of want to know what the dinner's going to look like, then pick the groceries.
Right. All right, now is there a standard sequence of events? Where do you like to get involved in the timeline along? Is it just pure conceptual drawing, or how far, or where do you like to jump on board?
Well, our firm will actually do a CAD layer. So just like you have a lighting plan with a switching plan or a mechanical plan, you could have a technology plan as well. And the plan will show wireless access points, it'll show televisions, data locations, and then various subsystem equipment. And so we like to get involved in the planning stages. Physically, when we get on a job, we follow the electrician. So he knows which wires he needs to pull for us. And he pulls those, but we pull the low voltage wires before the insulation goes in. So it's sort of, we finish, we start about halfway through the electrician being done, and then when he starts to finish his outlets and lighting fixtures, that's when we come back and start to pull it all together.
A lot of people think that, I have Wi-Fi, I'm all set. So there are advantages to have wired and wireless combined in certain applications?
Absolutely. From silly examples like, where is your printer going to be? I don't know if you've ever had trouble with a wireless printer. If you've ever had a wireless printer, you probably have.
Right.
But a printer is not a thing that moves around the house a lot. So why not wire it? And then it's always on the network. The big problems with wireless printers is they go to sleep, They don't wake up so elegantly. So if you're going to have a non-mobile device, we like to try to wire it.
Okay. All right. Speed, noise, any concerns there? Or
Absolutely.
Versus wired versus wireless?
Wired is always going to be faster, but it's primarily, you know, I'm not so sure you would notice where you would notice the speeds unless you were dealing with very large files. But one thing to really think about is just the mobility. You know, so if a thermostat is never going to move, unless it's a retrofit application, if it's new construction, we'd like to try to get a wire to it. Because it's not a mobile device.
Is there, speaking of thermostats and stuff, is there movement in the industry to get rid of the thermostat and, or I don't want to say that, but hide it behind the scenes and just put sensors and maybe a touch screen, a central point? Does that work or not? Or?
It does. Aesthetics, you know, three things I think are really important when you start to really get into the details of a design are aesthetics, simplicity, and reliability. Because there are a lot of automation products available that don't meet all those criteria. So aesthetics is a big deal when you're trying to hide thermostats. No one wants to see these big touchscreen thermostats, especially if you have a granular zone system and you have 10 zones. Yeah. Then it means 10 locations in the room. So you can get these little temp sensors about the size of a quarter. They can be plastered up to, plastered over, painted, tucked away, and then you can put your thermostats in a closet nearby. We don't like them all in a basement, especially in vertical living, because if the computer ever had a glitch, you just want to have the thermostats near. So we try to find a mechanical space per floor, put the thermostats there, and then use your iPhone, your Android, your mobile device, and make that your interface rather than something on the wall everywhere.
Okay. Well, what are some other things to think about? I mean, lighting. Am I getting to a full lighting control in the basement where I got to run all my wires back down to it and then run it back to the fixtures? Or have things changed over the years where now it's just a light or a switch is the change now?
You know, there's products available across the board. So on the lighter end are just new switches that you can control. So if your lighting plan calls for 4 switches, you just basically run your wires conventionally and change out those 4 switches. To take the design to the next level, though, you say, maybe I don't want banks of 4 and 6 switches, which are confusing, and I still turn on my porch lights when I'm trying to turn on my hall lights. So what you do is you home run those lighting loads, so that instead of having 4 or 6 switches, you just have 1 keypad. That takes a little more planning because it's, I won't say it's non-conventional wiring, but instead of having all the switches where they showed up on the 4 or 6 gang plate, they go to a panel in the basement. But when planned properly in advance, it can really make things simple. And then you just have a keypad. You can have 1 button, room on, room off. It can control 5, 6, 7 lighting loads, bring them on to preset scenes. And it sounds complicated to someone who's never heard it before. They think buttons, keypads, where's my light switch? But a keypad with a single on-off button for the room is infinitely easier than 4 or 6 switches that I guarantee you'll never remember which is which, and every time you'll press the wrong one.
Well, where would you suggest somebody go to get more information? To me, I've always said you got to deal with a professional. Is there anywhere you get a little primer, or where to get a little education before you reach out, or how do you find people in your area that are qualified?
What you'll find if you do a little bit of web research is you'll start finding some of the product manufacturers, the bigger ones. And I'd be cautious to go down that path too far before you meet with a person. The truth of the matter is there's so many options of products. There's so many products that fit different budgets. And there's so many products that are on the wane and on the rise. That I would really suggest you reach out to your network of friends, whether it's your architect, your builder, your designer, or even just your friends at work. I would reach out to your network of people and say, hey, if you worked with anyone, do you know anyone? And then meet a couple of folks. What you're really looking for is a personality match and a professional who you can trust, just like with anything that you're doing. Your builder, same idea. Because they're going to be taking your budget and your wish list and turning it into a design. Make sure you find a company that designs, installs, and supports.
The last one.
It's important to say because if you get a company that's too small, you'll figure out they can't support the systems they install. And if you get a company that's too big, maybe they don't have the personal touch you're looking for. So somewhere in between, mid-sized company who can support the work they do.
Oh, that's good.
And is patient, professional, educational, and non-salesy on the design side. If you feel you're being pressured into something, get a second opinion.
Perfect. Perfect. That's great thoughts. Hey, just one last thing in passing, too. One individual said to me, "Hey, you don't have to run cable anymore. Now you run everything's digital. Right? You run Cat 6 or whatever the highest number is now. Sure. Skip all that cable stuff. You do all this. Same thing with audio. What's your feel on that, or?"
Well, we didn't. I kind of breezed over audio video, but that's a big part of the problem, or the design problem, shall we say? So, I'd say that answer's half right and half wrong. So, where it's half right is all the content that you're watching on television or listening to is coming over the network, and it's digital, it's streaming. However, there's still a speaker wire from an amplifier to a speaker if you want nice built-in speakers. Yes. There's still an HDMI cable from a video source to a television that is not a digital, well, it's digital, but it's not a networked connection per se. So you kind of have to have the right cables in place to do both. But on the back end, where all those wires start and come together is where the network is, so that you have a good hardwired connection to all your streaming content from the outside world that you can then distribute to your televisions and your speakers throughout the house.
Well, that was great. I appreciate your time on
it. Dave, there's one place I was thinking about, Electronic House Magazine. It's a really good magazine written for end users. Okay. So it won't be too biased for products or integrators. It's a great place for people.
Oh, that would be a good starting point for some of these people. That was awesome, Jerry. I really appreciate you, again, taking your time out, driving down from the Boston area down here and visiting and giving us your insight on that. That's really some good information.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
If you have any questions, drop me a line anytime.
Awesome. Thanks. Awesome. We'll try to reach out to you again and do some more business. All right, thank you. Hey, that was great. It was really good of Jerry to come down and talk about, give us an insight about home automation, what to look at, what to think about, and some good takeaways. And even that last bit of a little resource there to go to try to get some unbiased information. So stay tuned.